We've been into the classes, actually 3, and just connecting with the students is actually the challenge. We spoke to them, I got my information out, but I haven't heard a lot back from them, so I'm continuing to reach out. So that's been the tricky part.
Okay. Great. Thank you. And how about Adriana? Adriana, this is it okay if I share with people, this is your first day in your role. So I can imagine your biggest challenge might be, you know, finding your way to the cafeteria and back today.
I think it's just really gaining an in-depth understanding of what all the resources are on campus so that I can refer students out to them.
Okay. Thank you. And Beth?
I think a few things. Can you hear me?
I can.
The 2 biggest things are they're working on the associate's degree that they'll be introducing, and so they've asked me to find jobs that people who take the associate's degree can get when they complete it, and that's been really tricky because I just don't see a lot out there, so I've had to do a lot of hunting things down. And so that's probably the biggest thing.
That is a tough one in health IT where so many positions ask for a bachelor's degree. We've begun to see some shift in that in our region over the last year or so. I've noticed that some of the requirements that they were asking for before, like 5 years of experience in healthcare and bachelor's degree, some of those are moving to preferred in our region. So I'm hoping maybe you'll see some of that same shift on the East Coast.
I hope so too.
Yeah. Fran.
Yeah, can you hear me?
From Renton Technical College.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Well, one of mine, I don't know if this is quite the biggest, but one of my challenges is financing for the students. There's a lot of students that are coming that don't have money for their supplies or their books, and so, but I have been really taking advantage of referring the students to the WIA programs for funding, and several of them have qualified and received money for their books and supplies. So that has been a great experience, that realizing that I actually refer someone and they actually do get the money, not just finding out that they don't qualify or something like that. So
well, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm thinking. Oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, my other challenge, and we're trying to figure out how to tackle this, is just the students not taking school very seriously. So our first quarter, we lost, I think, like 5 students from the cohort, and not because of finances or anything that we could have provided resources for. It's all because they weren't showing up to class and they weren't getting their assignments in and they were showing up late and things like that. So we've already started addressing that by having the instructors meet with them and I chat with them, but it's hard to get them to focus and realize what the consequences of showing up late every day or not getting their assignments turned in will be.
Yeah, anyone else have any comments on that? That's a tough one. You know, the reality is, of course, we'll be doing everything that we can to support students and help them establish time management skills and study skills, but the reality is there's always a small percentage who are just not ready for college.
Right, yeah. Or they're forced, some of them, sometimes I've realized a couple of students, they were there because their parents were sort of making them. And so they're not really that interested themselves, but they're...
Can't imagine that. All right, well, thank you, Fran. And Laura from Bellingham Technical.
Yes, so from BTC. One of the difficulties we've been encountering is really getting instructor buy-in. So for the programs where we're infusing curriculum into their programs, we've found that that's been sort of a difficult process.
In terms of buy-in for, in what respect?
To what they already have in place. Maybe access to the students to actually come into the classrooms and take time away from instruction to get them signed up, where really that would be a good avenue for us because everyone's in the same room. We don't have to ask them to come, you know, for an extra session, things like that.
Yeah. So they're not welcoming health IT with open arms?
No. It's been, we're introducing a new certificate in the fall, a health IT certificate, and that's been going really smoothly, and I feel like our computer networking instructors worked very closely with us in terms of that, but the infusing piece has been a little more difficult.
There's been a lot of give and take with the faculty and figuring out, you know, we all agreed on something, and then they came back and said, maybe fall would be better, and it's getting a little too late to make those decisions. So we went from having potentially 60 students to enroll right now to 14. So I've been, as project manager, this is Lynette, working on that and negotiating some ideas, and so that's been the struggle. Laura was all ready to go and, you know, start enrolling students, and then the faculty all backed out. So we're working on that. We have a plan. It should be working, but we'll have to wait and see.
That's a tough one. I don't know if anybody has any insights to offer.
No?
Well, best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, and let's see.
Hey, Margaret?
And
I just wanted to mention that, you know, we went into classes where we infused, and the students were a little like, you know, I think the instructor wasn't quite clear on why. Well, they knew why we were there, but they hadn't expressed it to the students. So the students were kind of surprised, like, why are you here at the end of our program, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to say that there's a similar challenge.
Fortunately, we do have a couple of strong advocates in our health programs who were fairly welcoming. So that was helpful. Esther, I think you had that experience.
Yeah, when the faculty is behind you, it makes a huge difference. I would agree. Yeah.
Okay, and Natalie, our violinist, our Carnegie Hall violinist.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I would say one of the challenges facing us here at Whatcom is, I guess I'd say twofold. One, I find when to enroll students. Students can, especially in our medical assisting program, you can kind of start taking the courses at any point. And so I'm enrolling again this quarter, but I'm seeing it's going to be a challenge in the future of what specific class and what time do I get them enrolled so I'm not redoubling my efforts. And then also on the recruitment side, when to start working with students if we can start providing the services of a navigator while they're in their prerequisites, because if you're going into nursing or something, you might have 2 years of prerequisites. And do you just leave them sitting, or can we work with them even though they're not in the program that they're intending to go into? So it's just things to hash through that I can see could be a problem later on the road.
And I believe Patricia is on the line. Patricia, I don't know if you have a perspective on, you know, the students who are not officially in our programs yet because they're doing prereqs. Do you think our navigators can work with those students, or do you think that would be out of scope?
I think that would be great because it really fits into the recruitment aspect.
Okay, great. And I know that from a retention standpoint, studies I've seen show that the earlier you can make a connection, the more successful retention efforts are.
Right.
All right, well, thank you all. I wanted to touch on, just do the briefest of overviews of some of the key elements of the grant. I'm sure that by now, with the exception of Adriana, whose first day is today, most of you have likely had the chance to read through the grant, and you're probably familiar with the key aspects. But just a refresher, our grant is a Department of Labor Trade Adjustment and Assistance Act grant. And some of the key elements: training unemployed workers in high-demand fields, stackable credentials, evidence-based design, innovation, prior learning assessment, and practices to promote student retention and completion. The two populations that we are focused on primarily are veterans and their eligible spouses, and Trade Adjustment Assistance Act eligible populations. And would anybody like to tell me what you know about TAA? Okay.
This is
go ahead.
Fran. Oh,
hi, Fran.
This is Fran. I know a little bit about it because the other half of my job, I work as the Workforce Education Outreach Coordinator for all of the 11 colleges in King County. And I do go to Trade Act meetings to promote furthering their education. And
oh, wonderful.
So I do know that Trade Act employees are individuals who have been laid off from their job because because of competition, I believe, from overseas.
Exactly, outsourced jobs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then all of the individuals that qualify, the company has to be certified, and then once they're certified for Trade Act dollars, they receive something like $18,000 each for tuition and book money, and I know that they really encourage the individuals that qualify to take advantage of retraining.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you, Fran. And yeah, it's the mother lode of funding. It's one of the largest funding sources for an individual that I've come across.
So how do you find these people who are eligible for this?
Well, that is a most excellent question. Is that Beth?
Yes, because I've never heard of this until I took this job. I'm very familiar with the military because I work for Military One Source right now. So veterans I know, but I'd never heard of TAA, so I don't even know how to find these people who might be eligible.
Well, we are actually going to have someone from the Washington State Labor Council speak to us at our May meeting about exactly this issue, how to find the students and how to process their paperwork, what, any possible bumps you might hit with TAA students.
What would be the comparable person here in Virginia? What did you say that was called that's doing that for you?
It's the Washington State Labor Council, but why don't we'll plan to connect with them and ask them what the best resources would be for you in Virginia.
That would be great.
So
I'd appreciate it.
Sure. I'll follow up with you on that, Beth.
Okay.
Okay.
That would be great. I would love to just hear how to reach these people as well. It's like we know they exist, but...
And we'll have a whole session on that in our May meeting. And if we have some written information that we can send out in the meantime, we'll shoot that your way as well.
Will we be able to get a copy of this PowerPoint that you're doing right now?
Sure.
Okay. Because I couldn't write as quick as you were going through the last slide. So.
Oh, okay.
Margaret, I was just going to say, I know that Employment Security Department has a list of these employees or individuals that qualify for Trade Act, but I just don't know if they would send that out to all of us.
Okay. Well, we'll do a little research on our end.
Okay.
Oh, good, good. Thank you.
And get more information for everybody.
Great.
We of course needed to promise a few things since we received $11.8 million. There usually are some concrete deliverables. So each college prepared an Excel doc that looks something like this, and projected how many students would be trained, how many students would complete, and how many would be employed. So if you haven't seen a document like this yet, please do talk to your project manager, because these will give you your goals for both recruitment and retention and employment. Okay, we also promised that we would employ innovative strategies to increase student retention and completion. And that includes prior learning assessment, because research done by Kale shows that, okay, Andy, I always forget the number, but students are, I believe, twice as likely to complete a program if they have prior learning credit.
That's true.
Thank you. We also made a commitment to continuous improvement in all aspects of the grant. So we will be asking you to document certain pieces of information, and in many cases this will be the reason why, because we'll be looking at strategies that we're using for recruitment, retention, and employment, and then making improvements along the way. Okay, student intake. Let me share with you the document that I sent out. And let's see, let me just mute a line. Okay, so we have the grant required elements, and those are all covered on your the demographics form that you're all using with your students, the one that you ask for a signature on and ask them to divulge their Social Security number. Okay, and then there were some other items. Rob Foley at Spokane Community College started a list of items that they are looking at asking students on intake, and I wanted to get your input on this, because other than the items in number 1, the rest of the items are open to discussion. So let's look at item number 2, status and background. Is there anything that you think should be deleted from this, or anything to be added?
Well, they ask about employment twice, so I guess we don't, if we're asking it under number 1, we probably don't need to ask it again. Under 2C and 1F, aren't they the same question?
Yes. So we'll eliminate that redundancy.
This is Lynette from Bellingham Tech, and the difference might be that in 2C, we put together kind of a case notes form with a quick sheet at the top that adds additional things that aren't on the intake form, and it's things like if they're employed, where they're employed, how long they've been there, what position maybe they're in, and if they're unemployed, whoever their last employer was, just so we would know that about them. And in the event they don't release their social, we have to find it. So we added that as information we'd like to have.
Okay.
So that differentiation, because in the 1F it just asks, are you employed, yes or no? But the way we elaborated on that was, if so, where, when, how.
Yeah, and that would be great, because if they don't answer yes to D and give that to us, then yeah, that would be useful information.
Okay, so we'll add a few more details to 2C
Margaret?
to differentiate it. Yeah.
This is Donna. I also asked them where they were employed as well, because I try to go ahead and help the students have a tie-in to the fact that they might use that in going back to work when they're finished, that if they don't get if the timing is that they don't get a job, because some people are concerned, is there going to be a job the moment I graduate? And so I've been telling them that, just to try to reassure them that, for example, if you've been working at a bank, that the skills you're learning, at least in my certificate, the database skills, you can take them back to a bank. And I try to show them how that, so that kind of relieves that, oh, I'm not in a path that if it doesn't work out the moment I graduate, that I've still got a lot of options open. And so it helps me have that conversation with them. And also because, I'll be teaching some of the classes in my case, it gives me a list of the different kinds of companies people have worked for, so when I build examples for class, then those examples can be incorporated. And I can imagine for the other people on this call that if they're not teaching the classes, even just feeding that to the instructors to say, the students, they don't have to identify the individual students, but to say, these are the kind of places your students have worked. Maybe some of the examples can flush around that so they quickly engage the students.
Oh, that's a great idea, Donna.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Margaret?
Yeah.
This is Andy. One thing when I looked at this, I was wondering, I see the student intake or the applicant intake as two different things. Like if I'm talking to new prospective students, the questions I might want to ask them are very different than if they're already, planning and selecting the program. So I was wondering if this student intake form was for both or just for students or what?
I was thinking once they've decided to pursue the program, but it's a good point, Andy, that maybe we need a different form for prospective students.
Yeah, that's sort of how I was thinking, because some of these questions assume that a person's already, are you on financial aid? It implies that they are already enrolled in school and they know how to get financial aid. There might be other questions that come up for brand new students. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. And actually, even once they've decided to pursue the program, probably 2B needs to be reworded a little bit. Are you planning to pursue financial aid or something like that?
Do you think you might need financial aid or something like that? Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, I can draft a prospective student list of items too for consideration by all of you. All right, number 3. Anything we should delete? I didn't know whether A1 was needed or not, but you're all in the trenches there. What do you think?
I don't like this section.
Yeah, I agree. I don't either.
Okay.
It's interesting because I like this section. So it's interesting to hear. Yeah, I think it's just, if it's somebody I'm going to be working with for a year or 2 years, it's just nice to have an idea of what kind of person they are and what's important to them. It tells me something about why they're interested in this field.
Well, and maybe what we can do is come up with some items that we all agree that we're going to ask, and then optional items.
Yeah. I know our students are...
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
For the section 3, maybe A and B are just items that would be nice to know, but section C is actually really, really important, especially for retention of students. You need to know if they have kids, if they're a single parent, if they are taking care of elderly parents, if they, drive from, an hour and a half away to get here. These are important and can help with referrals and with retention. So I think at least 3C should remain.
Yeah, I totally agree, Lynette. Does that sound good to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. And how about career goals? Anything that should be deleted?
I guess I like all this section except for sometimes when you're first talking to people about, it depends when you're asking them. If they've already signed up for the program and stuff, I think that's great. But asking a whole lot of questions about your next 10 years can kind of put people off. So it depends when we're asking some of these questions.
And how about section 4, Andy?
That's what I meant. Like, if this is when they're already signed up for the program, I think these are excellent questions. They're great things to think about. But if it's sort of if they're just deciding to, thinking about the program, this is a lot of information to be taken in right off the bat.
And I think we will assume that this particular form is for people who have already made the decision.
Okay.
And then we'll do a Cliff's Notes version for prospective students, because I agree, you don't want to. It's like when you visit an online site and they want you to fill out 2 pages of information to access a document.
Yeah, and I think the transportation question is almost way too far out to ask in the beginning, because it depends on if they're willing to relocate to Chicago or D.C., transportation is not going to be a challenge. But if they're relocating to the middle of Kansas, that could be, so it seems like that's a question that might need to be addressed when they're actually looking for a job. But this early on at an intake, it seems like a question that's really could be resolved by where they end up going if they go somewhere.
Or it could be, is it a problem transportation to school and back?
Oh,
or
yeah, then that's
back. So then it's just misplaced.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even think about school. I was just thinking about career, but you're right.
So we'll find a better location for that question. Anything else?
Is the programs at the other schools, are they online or are they in person?
Combination.
Okay.
Some online, some hybrid, some classroom.
Okay.
Anything else on section 4? Okay, how about section 5? Anything that should be deleted?
I don't think anything should be deleted, but maybe, and this could just be something that we're doing, and maybe it's self-explanatory, but we're also having the Student Navigator go through with each student and create an education plan. So even if they're in a program and the program is sequenced and they're in a cohort or something, at least we'll always know where they're at and when they anticipate to graduate and what class they should be taking next, and if they're in a program that's a little bit more flexible with when you take classes, then that will help the student and the navigator always know where they should be and where to anticipate. We're also asking students to turn in their transcripts and schedules each quarter and stuff like that. So that's stuff that is just materials that would go along with Section 5.
Okay. So maybe adding something about an education plan?
Mm-hmm. Or just like an advising sheet, or you call it at your college.
Great. Thank you, Lynette. Anything else on Section 5?
I'm not sure we need if you could have done one thing in school differently, what would it have been? I think that might come out from the B part of the question anyway.
Okay, is there general agreement on that? Or let me rephrase that. Anyone think differently?
Margaret, can you hear me?
I can.
This is Connie Edmondson at Spokane Community College. Rob is actually out.
Oh, hi.
Been in listening. I was part of when this whole design was made, and I just want to kind of explain where these questions came from and the feedback that we've gotten from where this was generated from. I personally have worked fairly closely with the individual who basically has my job as the student instructional facilitator over at Air Washington, which is another grant that we do here at our college. And they use a very similar piece such as this. Actually, a lot of these we kind of took from there and reworded them a little bit. And their Navigator over there is actually the person that guided us through this, in the sense that these are essential element pieces that she uses to help them not only through the program, but when it comes to job placement and so forth, and helping to work with each individual student in the process of learning to interview correctly for a job and those kinds of things. And she explained to me that if we work on those types of skills as well in our one-to-ones, and we get the information from the Head Start piece and work through, it makes it a lot easier to kind of, in a sense, groom the individual to help them to get the better jobs that are out there when that piece comes into play.
Okay, well that makes sense.
I mean, I realize that this whole part of the interest that you wanted to take out and so forth, but I think it is pretty critical to know what is a person's plan over the next 5 to 10 years of their life. Do they want to go on and get a 4-year degree, or are they content with just an associate's? Or, what kind of job do you see yourself working in as a graduate of the program? And how can we help you achieve the goals that you want? Because that's pretty much our essential job, is helping each individual achieve their goals, not for us to lay the goals out for them. And if we don't know the information about them, how can we help them?
And Connie, your mention of goals, I think, is a really important one, to get students focused on goals and really targeted. One of the models that we mentioned in the grant was a model developed by an organization called Inside Track, and what they do is they contract with colleges to provide coaching to students, and they use executive coaching as their model, which they emphasize. There's a heavy emphasis on goal setting, time management, that sort of thing. And a study of about 13,000 students that received this coaching showed a retention rate that was 10 to 15% higher than average. So I think the focus on goals is an important one.
I actually just was working at Inside Track as my most recent position. This is Adriana.
Oh, really?
Yep, so I know all about the coaching aspects and everything that they use there. So if anyone has questions along those lines. But yeah, it really is about, getting the students to set short and long-term goals, and then as a coach, or, in this position as a navigator, helping them just come up with small steps and small things they can do in order to reach those goals, whatever that might be, and kind of support them in that way.
Oh, Adriana, you'll be hearing from me about sharing what you learn, what kind of training they provided at Inside Track, and learning a little bit more about boots on the ground practices from that organization. That would be great.
Sounds good.
Margaret, this is
yes.
Donna.
Hi, Donna.
Back on your last question about the keeping that last line in, if we could have done something differently in school or not.
Yeah.
I would keep something like that, or even that sentence in there, and I've been doing it with my students. I haven't articulated it quite that way, but this helps remind me when I see this, because at least at our college at Pierce, it's been funny. Every time the quarter starts, the tutoring center is full the first day, and I asked the gentleman that heads it up, I said, how in the world can you have tutoring center full the first day when school's just starting? And he says, we have such a backlog on tutors that students that have been here a quarter know to sign up before the quarter starts, or they're not going to get tutors in tutoring time. So they know which topics they're probably going to struggle with, and they go ahead and get it lined up. So a statement like this I've been trying to do now that I've been doing intake on new students to say, you know, in high school or if you've had other college classes, where have you tended to struggle so that we can make sure the resources are lined up day one instead of when you're drowning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's helped because, you know, some of the students, you know, I've asked them, I said, you know, have you been the kind of student, for example, that waits, you know, will struggle with something 2 or 3 days before you ask for help, or, you know, those kind of things. And I've told them, don't be shy. Ask for help immediately so that you don't get over your head. And here's the resources we've got available to help you with that.
So maybe maybe we can rework this last item a little bit, more along the lines of what you just mentioned. You know, what did you struggle most with in previous academic experiences? Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's a nice idea.
Great. And I just wanted to, we're getting a little short on time, but Esther, if I could ask you to share the database, and I think this was Fran's baby initially, Fran from Renton, a database to track student encounters, and Esther has been working on this. And Esther, I'm going to make you the presenter here so you can share your desktop.
Okay. All right. All right. Does everybody see?
Mm-hmm.
So you can see the database
Yes.
right there where it says navigation menu. So what you see on the screen on the navigation menu there to the left is a student form, a meeting notes form, and then what I'm calling right now employer wage data information. So once we have the students fill out that participant intake form, this is the basic information that's required by the DOL. So I'm going to just do some clicking so you can see we get program information, and the programs that you see listed there are all the ones at Bellevue College, so those can be customized to each college. What cohort group they're in, so we did cohorts by quarters. Then the course name, and students can have they can be in multiple courses, so that's a multiple selection list. Their date of birth, last name, first name, their social and student ID numbers, then the basic contact information, and I'm scrolling down just a little bit so you can identify race, gender, whether they're a full-time, part-time student, working, and then down to their education level, whether they've signed the form, the date they signed the form, and whether they've consented to release the information. So that's the basic student information that's required by the DOL. Then I've been working with our data compliance manager on the meeting notes form as well, and we just kind of took a stab at Margaret's intake form as well as some things that Andy and I put together initially. So if you look, I've clicked here on the second button for meeting notes, and in this case, you can select the student name. You can assign it to somebody, whether it's the instructional support specialist, the student navigator, or program manager. Put in a meeting date. You can add attachments like a resume, cover letters, that kind of thing. Make notes, detail whether they have a LinkedIn profile. And then we took the categories from, Margaret, from your intake form for interests, their professional background, their career goals, their academic goals, and then positioning for success. And then some other things we had added, and so this is an example of the kinds of things that can go on there, is sort of the phase of where they are in their job searching. Are they looking? Are they working right now? Are they doing their clinicals? Then kind of what their status is, where are they ready for a job and highly motivated, or are they really not job ready yet, and they're starting to consider their options? And then what do they need help with? What did they come in for? So that's kind of what the meeting notes form looks like. And then once you enter the data, you can write a report, or not write a report, but generate a report that has the kinds of information that you're needing.
Thank you, Esther. And I believe that you'll have this ready for people to do a review and comment on by June. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
And I'm going to take the controls back here. I also wanted to let you know that we have put together some resources that we hope you'll copy and paste and use for your own at your own school. Let me, not seeing the web link. Here we go. I can do it a different way. 1 second here. Okay, so you should see on your screen right now Veterans Resources, and the link to this is in the PowerPoint deck, which I'll send you all after this. We have a few things that are Bellevue College specific, the first couple of sections here, but there are also some general services for veterans. So if you'd like to copy and paste any of those, please feel free. And then Andy is in the process of developing some really excellent PLA resources. You'll need to take those and modify them a bit for your own institutions. But Andy, do you want to talk a little bit about what you're developing?
Sure. Yeah, I'm the other half of me is the PLA guy. So what I'm working on is creating some tools to help all the colleges let students know about prior learning assessment and credit. So if you have students, particularly military students or others, who have years of experience in certain fields, they might be able to get credit for it or at least test out of it. And so some of the I'm going to provide information on some of the methods to improve PLA at your campus and some methods and tools that you can use to help students test out of things. For example, many of the schools in the consortium use CLEP tests, they allow CLEP tests or Dantes or DSST testing. I've put together a crosswalk for each of your schools based on what your prerequisites are. So there might be CLEP tests that the students can come in and take to complete some of the prereqs for your programs. So that's some of the information I'll be sending, and that should be pretty soon.
Okay, and we'll also be scheduling a meeting on PLA that we'll plan to invite you all as well as the project managers to.
Can I ask a quick clarification to Andy?
Sure.
This is CC. Andy, so you said you created a crosswalk to certain classes for those tests individualized for each of our colleges?
For the prereqs that were listed on for each of your programs, yeah.
Okay, and do you know when we could see that?
Yeah, I can send you that part today.
Okay, great, because part of in our advising department is about to pay somebody to do that. And so if you've already done it, then I can save them some money.
You mean as far as outline which CLEP and Dante's tests?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'll send that to you today.
Thanks.
Thanks, Andy.
Sure.
All right, I'd like to get your input on future meetings. We're looking at holding Navigator meetings monthly. We may revisit that frequency, sometime later, but for right now we're looking at monthly, and wanted to get your input on what your preferred format would be and some topics that might be interesting to you. So on the right-hand side of your screen in the bottom pane, you should see a poll that asks you a couple of questions: what type of facilitation you'd like to see for the meetings, and what type of format, presentations or free-form discussions. Can you all see that poll? Here we go. All right. Okay, I'll wait another 10 seconds or so, and then I'll close the poll.
And then we submit it when we're done?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I knew I shouldn't have put option C in question 1. I didn't have it in at first, and then I thought, oh, I'll just put it in there as an option. Okay.
You did such a good job that...
A flattery will get you everywhere. Oh. And number 2, okay, a combination of discussion and presentation wins the day on that one. All right, great. Thank you for that. Any comments on either of those items? And any of you who chose rotating facilitation, let me know, because I would be delighted to hand over the baton on any of these meetings. Okay. So one last piece of information. I made my best guess on some topics that might be of interest to you, and I'm wondering which ones, if you had to pick 3. Well, we already have TAA for our May meeting, but if you had to choose 3 for our July, August, and September meetings, which 3 would those be? And how you can indicate, you'll see a little toolbar right above the screen. You'll see an arrow. If you click on that arrow and then click next to the 3 topics that you would like to see covered in June, July, and August. Oh, it's only letting you can't do more than 1. Drat! I never tried to do more than 1. Okay, sorry about that. Let me think quickly how to do it differently. How about this? Click on the letter T, the text tool, and put your initials next to each one. Each of the 3 that you'd like. Like an arts and crafts project. Okay, so it looks like connecting, and that should be industry, not sure where that plural came from, is a popular topic. Recruiting veterans is the second most popular, and it looks like effective retention strategies are the next most popular. So we will plan on those for our June, July, August sessions, and then we'll see where we stand and what the greatest need is after that. All right. Well, we are just about at 11 o'clock. And perfect timing. That was the last slide. So I will follow up with a revised student intake form based on your presentation, based on your input today, and you'll be receiving meeting invitations. Oh, you'll be also receiving a doodle to ask about what date, what week of the month, what day, what time you'd like to have as our regular meeting. Does this time work well for most people?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there anyone who would not like to have this time as our regular meeting time? Well, this was easy. All right, well, this will be our regular meeting time, and you'll be receiving an Outlook invitation to reserve those times. And thank you all so much. Nice to get to know you a little bit. And have a great afternoon.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.